Hello, my name is Paul Pilty, Product Manager at Martin Professional. I would like to welcome you to Martin ShowDesigner version 6. This video will give you an overview of the functionalities of MSD 6. We will see new features, we will see features that were there before. So this is for people moving from version 5 to version 6, as well as people that might have not worked with MSD 5 yet, but are interested in seeing the functionalities of MSD 6. Let's start from the first toolbar here. So this one is very simple. We have new scene, open a scene, save a scene. This is the turn off any operation to go back to normal. This is to select a workspace so you can save and delete and create like workspace, but it can be recalled later. So this is the environment you work with. This one is your layer manager. So once you have your layers set up, which is one is on and off or locked, you can save that as a preset and they can be quickly recalled from this menu here. This is to turn on and off the sidebar. This is the viewport management. So right now we're in a quad view. We could go to a single view, like 3 view like this. You can choose like a 3 views. It's also possible to move the size of them. So let's go back to quad view here. This one is to select between different modules of ShowDesigner. So we can go to the modeler, we can go to the paper modules, and ShowDesigner is a legacy module. This is what the MSD6 is being replacing, but it is still there available as a legacy for certain functions that you might still need from the old version. Let's move on to the second toolbar. This toolbar is the camera operations. So if we start from the first icon here, this is the icon to move the camera up and down. The next one is to move the camera back and forth. The next one will basically rotate around selected objects. So depending on which object you select, it'll be rotating around this object. The next one is the swivel. So this is to like your pan up, pan down, left, right. The next one is to select camera that has been saved. So these are all different positions. So from the same menu, you can also save the camera. This is the zoom in and out. The next one is a full view. This one is when you're in a multiple view, like let's say a quad view. Pressing this one here will do a full view on all 4 or every ports that are visible. This is the undo camera position and a redo. This is to switch to a 2D view. So you have front, back, left, right, top. This one is isometric camera views, and this one is your 3D views. It's also possible whenever you have a text here at the corner of the screen to click this and select either a camera or a type of view, like a 2D, isometric, 3D, or to go directly to a recorded camera. The next toolbar is the operation toolbar. This is to manipulate fixtures or objects. The first one is move, which is M on the keyboard. By the way, as you do over any icons, you always get the shortcuts that is being used. So move, rotate, scale. So yeah, so this one once you're in that mode, you can go and select an object and move it. A quick shortcut, if you hold the alternate key, it will preserve the selection. So wherever you click on the screen, even if I click on the side here, it will be grabbing the last selection I made. The next one is rotation. So it will always rotate according to the view you're in, and it will be rotating around this axis. The next one is scaling. So again, it will scale the objects into the axis that you are in. Then again, if I go back to left view here, then I could scale the other way. In each one of these, like in movement, you also have like movement here. You can lock on the X, on the Y. If you go to rotation here, you can already choose what rotation you want to rotate the objects, and the scale as well. So you can already choose in which direction you want to scale something. So by default, it goes to 2D. If you use alternate S, then actually this one here, it will scale in every dimension. So proportionally. The next icon is the axis. The objects are moving when you move them. By default, it is world axis, so it's moving according to these coordinates here. The other mode is object axis, so it will move according to the object's axis. So if there's something rotated at an angle, when you move it, if you try to move it up and down, it will move in that angle. It's very useful for fixtures like these ones here, example, that are on angle truss. It makes it easy to move them back and forth with the arrows. The next icons here are the grouping operation. So if I select two objects here, this will group them together, and this one here will ungroup. As you see, there's a G shortcut for grouping and a U for undo grouping. This one here is grouping according to the axis of the red object. So this is useful when this object will become the center of rotation of that group. So if I do this here and try to rotate this object here, so you'll see this person here becomes the center of rotation of the group. The next one is assembly or assemble. If I select three objects here and the floor and or this whole section here being in red, and I assemble this. So now they are part of one group, but I still have access to each one individually. But if I select this one and I move this one, they all attach together. So this is what an assembly is. For example, you put a truss, you put some fixtures on it, you'll select everything, make the truss red, all the fixtures will be green, you assemble them. So now you can still pick each fixture, but the assembly, clicking the truss will select everybody. Next on the toolbar is the focus beam operation. In this mode, any fixture you select, you can control. This means that if you select multiple fixtures, I can move all the fixture at the same time. So you can move all the fixtures at the same time. You can also use this to do fanning. As you see, we are in this operation, there is this section here. Right now it is set to do fanning by selection order, which means it uses the orders into which the fixture were selected, which I'm not sure at this point how, but let's see. So if you click on this, let's say on this day, or let's do it on the floor here, it will be easier to see. Double click on the floor, and then you drag your mouse as you keep the click engaged, and you'll see like everything is fan as a line. But then you see this is the first fixture is here, this is the second one, this is the third one. So it's not a really nice organized. You can go and choose here to use the left to right from the visual point of view, from the camera point of view. So left to right, and we'll do update. There we go. So now we have a much better looking fan. We can invert this, so we go right to left and we update, and we get like a cross. So it's very quick to do. Looks. If MPC was running at the same time, these values will be sent to MPC and could be recorded into a preset or a cube. So you can do a line, you can do a center line, which means that it's going to start from the central point. You double click, and then as you drag, then the fixture will spread from the center. The other mode is the circle. So let's click here and we'll double click, and as you move, you get a circle, and then you can rotate that circle just by moving the mouse. So it doesn't matter how many fixtures you have, it could be different type at the same time. You can do circle and lines. And the next icon is the single duplicate operation. Select this operation, select an object, you hold the alternate key, and wherever you click, it will copy that object. It will always use the missing axis, like in this case it's the floor, so it keeps the same height. If I move to this U here instead, then I can copy wherever I want. The next operation is the multiple copy or array copy. In this mode, you select an object, and then using this section of the sidebar, you can choose what type of copy you want. For copies here, you could choose a line, a grid. A grid will be like two sets of values for the number of copies. Could be a circle as well. So in this case, this is 4 copies plus the original one, obviously. So you can change which value you want to copy. So you could be using size and spacing. So the range will be 360. And then it will tell you how many copies it would take with this radius to fill up. Or you could say using the number of copies instead. And then it will spread them. You can choose where the copy is in the circular, so we can see in the 3D view, you can choose where the copy goes. We can change it, the radius, so let's make this smaller here. So you see, so it could be over 180 degrees. In the advanced option, you can choose to offset the height, so you can see 0.5 meters at each copy, so then it will do like a stair. It will just be going up. It's also possible to say do not rotate, so then all the copies will keep the same angle as the original. So there's several possibilities. So that's a circle. There's also a cube, which gives you like a 3-dimensional, so you can see how many copies you want to have in each of the directions, the distance between each one. So quite complex copies can be done this way. When you're done, you just click apply and the copy will happen. And finally, the last 2 operations are undo and redo. So very simple, click and can undo and redo operation. Now let's move to the sidebar, and we'll start with the first section, which is called environment. First slider is fairly easy. This is actually just the ambient light. The second one is similar, but it's related to the light generated by the fixtures. So if I turn the ambient down completely, and if there's no light in the scene, then everything is dark. As I light up, then you'll see objects being lit by the ambience. This ambience will also follow the color of this ambient light. So it makes the scene more dynamic, more real. So when you have a blackout, you have a complete blackout. The next one is the smoke level 10, and the next one is the smoke type. So at 0, it's just haze. As you go up, and you start seeing motion. Here we see the smoke motion quite well. This is related to show smoke animation. If we uncheck this, then there will still be some kind of a cloudy in the smoke, but it won't be moving. The next one is eye sensitivity. We could really describe this one as the pupil of the eyes, the iris basically in your eyes that close and open depending on the light level. So the more light on the stage, the more your iris will close. So this is the same here. As you can see, it influences both the beam and the projection. While if you play with the smoke, only the beam will get brighter. It's difficult, so this will vary from scene to scene depending on which lights you use. So this is something you need to play with and figure out. Is it around 3000 is a value that is fairly good. The next one is the background. So wherever there's no objects in the scene, then the background will be shown. You can choose to pick a different color for background. So it could be, let's say, well, let's choose a dark blue here. So, and then you can adjust the intensity. The next one is very interesting. It's called intensity correction. When it's at 0, basically, it's using the properties that are set into each of the fixture profile, which means a candle will have like 1 candela, and then you will have like a very, very bright spot or very intense beam, like a Sharpie, something that's very, very intense in the center. That will basically burn on the screen. And that is a problem because the dynamic of our monitors is not that great. It's still 256 levels per color. And sometimes it's not enough to show the difference between these bright fixture to the brightest fixture. I don't know if I can pull something here where we see a lot of the different fixture type. So with this here, if I play with this, at this point when I get to 100%, all the fixtures in the scene have the same brightness. So that if they were all the same candelas output, so it will equalize everybody. And while at full here, then every fixture has its own properties. Sometimes you can find something in between, so you can still have some differences between fixtures. but not as pronounced. The next one is self-illumination. So this is for textures that have the properties self set to a different value than 0. As I play with the self-illumination, you see the skin of the characters on stage is using these properties. The stage is also using that. The backdrop is using it, so you can see it getting brighter. And the last one is related to video panels. So if there was any video panel in this scene, that will be adjusting the total level of output on all the video panels. So this one here will hide the beams. This one here will basically hide the gobos, which in this case makes the beam. This one, as we showed before, will stop the smoke animation. This one here, show animation, will stop any video playback from happening, any dynamic scenery from happening as well. This one here will show if there was any dynamic objects here, like virtual tracks or motors. You could hide these, so this will hide and show these objects. Next in the sidebar is the camera. In this section, what we see is the actual parameter of the camera. If I select the camera operation here and I move around, you'll see these values changing. So you can actually do that yourself instead of using the camera operation. So let's choose a front view. And then, as you see here, we could move the camera from left to right. And that would be up and down, back and forth. So this is the camera position. The next one is the actual aiming, the target of the camera. Look to the right, look to the left, up and down, changing where actually the target is at the back. And the last one is the zoom. So it makes it easier to fine-tune the camera position. Next in the sidebar is the grid ruler. Basically, for each you select a view, and then you can either decide to show the grid on that view. You could also decide to show the ruler. Could be at the top, at the bottom. So let's use the top here. And there's a vertical ruler that shows the left. Give you a dimension, so like a reference point. In this case, the scene was made so 0 was in the center, so from there you have a plus and a minus, and 0 is at the floor level, so you have the stage here at 1 point something meter. And you can do that for each of the ports that you have here. So this is valid for all the 2D views. In a 3D view, there is no grid or ruler. So all of these settings, of course, when you save a workspace here, so if you say save workspace, you can choose the environment, the layout, the preferences, and you can give it a name. The next section basically shows when you select an object. It's called the orientation. So basically, this is to move objects on the scene. So if I take this object here, I can move it to the left, and it'll be up and down, it'll be back and forth. You can also rotate. You have, like for rotation, you have shortcuts. If you click here, so you can say I want to rotate 180 degrees. And you can also have the scaling, so the dimension. If you want to make something bigger or smaller, you can use the slider. You can make a mirror of the objects in the different direction. So this works for anything you select. Could be a fixture, could be an object. In the case of a fixture, you have the same thing. You have the focus where the fixture is aiming at. The next section is info. Again, this is only showing when there's an object or a fixture selected. For an object, it will just show which layer. And this is where you can choose on which layer you want to have this object. When you select a fixture, then you get a bit more information. So you will see the type of fixture, the ID number, the address, user description of the fixture. You can set color of the fixture. And if you click on details, then you will get when the profile was made, the changes that were made. So the history, basically, of the profile. The next section is also related to fixtures and will only show when fixtures are selected. It is parameter, and within this section you will see all the parameters of the fixture and you can interact with these parameters. So I could turn the intensity on, change the sign color, and you will basically have all the parameters. So I can change the gobo here. There's also a feature to enable the gobo focus. So let's move this fixtures. Use the tilt. So you see tilt, there's always two values, tilt and tilt high and tilt. So this is for the 16-bit, so the high is actually the value that changed the bigger steps. This one here is the fine-tune of each step. So that's the 16-bit part. Then we're going to enable the focus. When you enable this, it means that either from DMX or from the actual faders here, we can choose if the gobo is sharp or not on its projection. So you have to turn this on for each fixture. Very useful when you're programming if you want to really emulate the focus effect. Otherwise, you turn it off and then the gobo is always in the focus. For the next part, we will use a different scene. So in this part, we'll see how to, first of all, insert objects. So I already inserted a person here. Then from the library content object, we will go to primitive here. Let's just drag a cube, a sphere, a permanent here. So we have these objects inserted. So this is how it is to insert objects. At the top here, you always have current scene, so you can see the objects that are already used in the scene. The same goes for fixtures. If we had to insert a fixture, you do have all the libraries here with all the different manufacturers and all their fixtures. It is just a matter of drag and drop. There's one group of fixtures for all the different type of pars. Let's say this one here. We'll drag it here. The next part I want to show is the material. And that's why I inserted these different objects, just to be able to drag and drop materials on these objects. So in this library content material, we will see the different type of material library that are there. Then again, this is a combination of the default libraries and some of the libraries I have. Let's start with the demo texture. This is one that everybody has. It's a default one. So we have different textures here. We could make that bigger to see the, and then we can take a texture, go over an object, and drop it there. Because this object is single, doesn't have any parts, it doesn't ask you anything, and just apply the texture. But if I was to take this one here and drag it over the person, then it will ask me which part of the objects do you want to put this texture. So I'll choose the chest. And this is because the way the objects was created in the modeler, each section were divided into parts. Go and I drop this here again, and I said these are the legs. Let's put some wood on the arm. There we go. We're basically having a wood texture. Once the material is being set on an object, it is possible to modify it. So if I click on the objects, then I will have another section here called material mapping. I'll close this one here, not to create any confusion. Then I can choose a part. So I can choose a chest here. I will see which material is assigned to it. And then I can change its mapping, so I can actually rotate the texture. And you can see the result on the chest here directly. And then if I choose the arm, so we see that the wood is linked to this, now we can scale. So you can change the position also. Maybe not obvious, and this object will be maybe more relevant if I select this one here. So if I move this, you can see very well what's happening here as we move. If I rotate this here, that's a nice little trick. You put 45 degrees, and then you have textures on those surfaces there. And then it will be the scaling. So if you want to use smaller bricks. So this is how simple it is to map texture. If we go back to edit, it is possible to select any of these textures that we put there and modify them. So if I select the brick here, this will then apply to any objects that have bricks on it, will be affected by this change here, because this is you're modifying your in-scene library. So we could change the mapping from cylindrical to spherical, rectangular. You can choose the transparency. Just like half transparency. If I move this object now behind the cube, let's just see. You can set the transparency. Some of the settings here don't have any incidence on the look there until you do a static rendering. That will be the case for reflection, refraction, absorption. All of these settings the result will only be seen once you do a static rendering. Just one here, we talked about self-illumination before in the environment tab. This is the setting here, so we can give light to an object. So an object will basically be brighter. So you can use this as the setting here to set the self-illumination. So if we keep moving here, there's also different, we saw those texture here, the demo texture. There are also some simple textures. If we go here, then you will have like a flat color. So these are no bitmap, they're just color. We can just go and drag it on an object like this. Once you go and edit these one, you see there's no bitmap, they only have reflections and such. To create new texture from the same menu here, you can say, I want to create a new texture, and then you have all the settings. You go, you find there, and so we have now just created a new texture. Quickly, I will go to my material and see this one here. Also put it on the sphere. If I select the objects, go to material mapping, then I can change where the texture is on that sphere. I can scale it. Just went a bit too far. I'll copy this value to the other one here. And there we go. So we have this stars multiple times. This was the objects insert and textures. Let's continue with the library content. So far we've seen that objects, fixture, and material can simply be drag and drop into the scene. The fourth tab is for accessories. Here you can create accessories like scrollers. Let's just create one here. And then you specify here the number of gels you want to have in that on the scroller. So we have 6 gels. As soon as you enter the number, it will automatically divide the range for each color. And then it's just a matter of clicking on the color and choosing the color of the gel. There's already a color you can pick from a list of a pre-made color. Automatically will give it a name, the same name as used on from that gel. So this is very simple. You can also give dimensions to the scroller. Click OK. And it will be in this list here. When you select a fixture, I go to parameter. At the bottom here, it is possible to choose a scroller, and automatically, even on the fixture, a scroller will be drawn. The next one is the scene content. So this is basically everything that is in the scene. On the first tab here, you will see all the objects. You can select objects this way. There's different ways of having this data displayed by hierarchy. So you'll see like a group, and if there's a group and a group and a group, you'll be able to drill down by layer. You can select a layer. You can see what's inside the layer. If I open bands here, you see what's inside this layer just by objects fixture. So every object type or fixture type will be represented. If you click plus, you'll see all of them, and you can select them by clicking. The next tab is layers. Here is where you can create new layers as well as managing the layers. There are several columns here. So if we start from the beginning, this is to make objects visible or not. They will still be there in the scene. The light could interact with them, but they're simply not visible. Useful to, let's say, to have a wall where the light can stop at the wall, but you want to see through it. The next one is to lock. So when you lock a layer, the objects can be picked with the mouse. Useful for a floor, example, or a stage. When you work in a top view, you want to be able to select fixtures and objects, but not the floor. Makes picking easier. The next one is for fixtures. If there's any fixture in the layer, it will turn off the light so they won't be shining. The next one is a shadow cast. objects will cast a shadow or not. It's speed up the processing when you turn this off. You have a lot of small objects, sometimes more trussing, example, where the casting shadows is not really important. You can turn this off. It will save a lot of processing time. The next one is beam. There's one has 3 modes. So you see the beam of the light, you don't see it, or you see a stick like instead of the beam. Useful when you have a lot of fixtures and you want to see where they're aiming. This one here is for objects and fixtures. If light hit their surface, if it will interact or if it will pass through. And the last one is the master of the layer. So when you turn this off, the whole layer is off and not being processed. Any settings you do here can be saved as a preset, and they can be accessible through this icon here as well. In the Cues tab, you can store and recall cues. So it could be a snapshot from you take from the DMX coming in that you can use later on for doing static rendering. So you can store as many cues as you want and just click on them to recall them. To add a cue, simply press plus here. This window will open. You can give a cue number, can name a cue. And there we go, we just inserted a new cue here. It is very simple and could be very useful. For the next part, I'm going to use a new scene, and this is to show how the media works. The media is used to create feeds for video screens. So first, let's go to the library content in the video. We're going to take, let's say, a 1x1 meter video panel. We'll drop it here. Let's copy it a few times. So what we have here is spacing of 1x1 meter. Just so we see the space between the panel, we'll just increase this here to 0.1. So we'll have a slight space between each panel. So we have 1 copy in one direction by 4 copies into the other direction. We can increase that here by making 2 copies this way. Let's apply this. Then back to media. We're going to add a feed. Let's call it main screen. As you see here, when you create a feed, automatically it put an H and a V, horizontal and vertical. So I can already decide how my division will be made for this. And in this case here, we're going to do 5 horizontal by 3 vertical. And then we're going to choose a media. It could be like a live feed coming from it. It could be like a webcam, or if there was a capture card on this computer, it would show here. If you use current, it's using the camera view, or we can choose a new video or new still. I'm going to use a still. It's going to make the capturing easier. This one here. Alright, so this is our feed. Now back to the fixtures are still selected. If I go back to parameters, now I can go and choose that feed. And as you see, each of the screen gets the same picture. But now we need to divide this. So if we select just one tile, then still in parameters, we'll see a section called mapping. And then we can click on which area the screen represents. This division here is made by the choice we made here, 5x3. So we can go to each of the tile and decide which part of the image they do get. Here we go. Our video is completely mapped and makes it very easy after that to manage. Later on, the next tab is virtual screen. Virtual screen is actually a kind of video feed. Let's call it VF. This is the same thing. We can choose the source here. And if we go back to and we select all our panel here, we can choose the new feed. This one here, the VF. Group it as one big object. Let's position this at 0, 0, 0. So there we start seeing it actually by putting this at 0, 0, 0. It is some panel already interacting with the virtual screen. So if we go to the screen here and we enlarge this, so we say well, it's going to be 2 meters wide. You see it here. This makes it easy when you have panels at different angles and a very or panels that are moving, and you don't want the content to be moving, you can go here and define the area that this screen will interact with. So it also works for the Z. So if you move a panel back and forth, it will, as long as it's within that range. So if I put 10 here, so that means moving this video panel plus or minus 10 feet from the backstage to front stage will still interact with that virtual video. So we put 5 here, 8 here. So now actually we're bigger than the screen. If I move this video panel, you can see where it is interacting. So wherever it touches the video, the virtual screen, then it will display that part of the content. So the last part of the sidebar is the show control. This allows to basically control the timeline. The timeline can be opened by pressing this button here, the TL, or from the show control here, show timeline. And this progress bar here is basically the same as this one here. So the timeline is a great tool to create videos. Very simple. There's 3 tracks. One is the camera, the other one is the DMX stream, and the last one is the audio stream. The first thing normally that you would do is record a DMX stream. So you would select this one here, and you would do record new. And here you would set up the frequency, like 40 Hz, 30 Hz. That's enough. That's 40 Hz is good enough. The typical DMX is around between 30 and 40 from a console. And then you will hit record, and then from your console you would basically play back your cue list or whatever you want to record as a DMX stream. Once it's done, you will be able to save this file. You will be able to import it here, and there's also there's a open file, and there's an import button. The import button takes that file and merges it into the scene. So when you save the scene, actually, it will be part of it. In this show file here, right now, I have 3 different DMX streams. And the next one here is the actual, the cameras. All you need to do here is add a camera, and then you can either link it to one of the camera that you have done, or you can basically just move. You could be here, you would move the camera around, and then so you'll say update view, and then you'll do update waypoint. And that's going to be the camera for that section. Of course, to set the camera, you can use the camera tab as well here as a helper. So you would put all your camera here, and then there's a crossfade section, which is the yellow part here. So you can choose how the camera change. So if you don't put any curve, then it will be a snap. Or you can decide, okay, it's going to start crossfading here. And for each one, you choose if you want to accelerate, decelerate, or if you just want the camera to start at maximum speed. So of course, accelerate, decelerate makes a more natural motion. And finally here, this is the audio track. So you can go and find an MP3 file, for example, and put it there. And when you render the video, these will be all put together into one file. So to record a video, you press the videos. This will come up, video settings. Here you can, by default, it will give you a file name. It will put that in the default video folder for MSD. And but you can browse to a different location. It will always use the scene name plus the date, so year, month, day, and the time. And then here you can already choose what kind of format you want. Usually like 720 is a decent resolution. Of course, the higher the resolution, the more time it takes to render. The number of frame per second, highly suggested to use 30 frames per second. Keyframe could be also 30 frame. Every 30 frame there's a keyframe done for quality. Then you press OK. And then the next pop-up will ask you to choose the codec. By default, you will have some Windows codec, but they're not that great actually. And the full frame non-compress is not really good because it generates too big of a file in no time, so not really usable. So what I would suggest is to install DIVX. That works very well. Or the other one is called XVID. So these are 2 codecs that works very well. If you choose, let's say, DIVX, and we go to config, it's very important you do that. It's important you choose a profile that fits. So like this is 720p right now, so I should choose 720p here. And then you can use the maximum quality. And as for bit rate, well, you can go higher, like 3000. That's fairly low. For like a 720p, I would probably go for, so let's go 9000. This is done, and then once your configuration is done, you press select. And then you would go. In this case, I did have the option to show the IVX, so I can see that it's basically, there's a really high quality, and I'm running at 5 frames per second to do this rendering. And it says it would take another 24-25 minutes to render the whole 3 or 4 minutes of tracks that I have there. Another part of the software to consider is the preferences. Here we can choose the maximum frame rate that the engine will play, and also there's the snap function. And the other thing that is really important is the live performance quality here and the video. So for video, yeah, maybe you want to put it at best. It will take more time, but you'll get the best quality beam. But in real time, you can choose how the beam will render. So for example here, play this here. So the higher I would go on this, the slower it will get. But then the beam will get better. But sometimes, you know, when you're in real time, you're programming in DMX, it doesn't matter that much if the quality of the beam, if you see a bit more artifact. You can see like lines like this here, so that will disappear when you go in a higher quality. So you can adjust this. It's important to know that. On video card that are very slow, probably you'll want to keep that at the fastest here. This computer I'm using this right now is a very good video card. It's a GTX 780 from NVIDIA. It will depend from card to card. Definitely this is a DirectX 11 optimized engine, so a video card that is optimized for DirectX 11 will make a big difference. Other part of the preferences is you can choose to see the logo or not, or so you can also create could be a user logo that you want to choose. So you could have your own logo in the corner there. The file type is where you're going to define the path of your of all your folders, your user folders. And finally, these are the font size and the toolbar size. So if you have a computer with like a higher resolution, you probably want to change this here to maybe a larger icon, so they're easier to access. Same for the font, you can choose like a larger font. When you change something here, you do have to restart the application to get to see the result. I hope you have enjoyed this introduction to MSD6. If you have any more questions, please, you can use our forum at www.martin.com, as well as our Facebook page, Martin ShowDesigner. Thank you and enjoy.